Fourth Time Around, Episode 3.
I'm not the type to gush or swoon, but lately
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Lisa. And welcome back to everybody.
Unfortunately, there are not 1,000 of you, as we'd originally hoped.
Well,
It turned out we really did get, we must be up to 1,200 downloads now on our first podcast, but it was because we used the phrase "my humps" in description, which is the number one most downloaded song on iTunes. So when you type "my humps" into iTunes, which thousands of people do every day, Fourth Time Around podcast comes up.
it comes up, but people are actually clicking on it to download it.
Right, I don't know why.
Well, people are downloading it thinking that they're going to get maybe an interview with Fergie.
In a way, all the publicity's great, but in a way, I hate to think of all those people downloading this and being like, oh, who are these jokers? And then
Greater
950
things.
of them didn't come back for the second episode.
Well, no, we don't know that yet.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Still, a listener base of 50 is pretty great. A lot more than I have people reading my blog, so...
That's true. It's part of what they call the long tail. There's an article by a guy named Chris Anderson who appeared in Wired magazine, and it talks about the long tail. They also cover this on the Twit podcast, if we can ride on their coattail.
What's the long tail?
The
Let's
long-
be sure to mention Twit and Amazon.com.
Yeah, Twit and Amazon.
So we can get more
Hey,
hits.
Twit. That's right. Kelly Clarkson.
Brittany.
Oh, Hollaback Girl. Ooh, let's do that. Let's mention Hollaback Girl. Everyone will be downloading that.
That's so 2004.
Oh, sorry. The long tail. The long tail is a concept that Amazon is built on the model of the top. What is it? Okay, a typical Barnes and Noble store, for instance, stocks how many titles?
About 130,000.
About 130,000 titles. And the article said that Amazon stocks
makes more than half of its revenue outside of its top 130,000 sellers.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, the theory goes that you can't afford to... Let's take a CD we're familiar with that not everybody wants to buy. Let's say Kraftwerk's Trans-Europe Express. It's a 1976 release, I think, of a German techno band. Now, worldwide, and even in the United States, there are, I don't know, millions of fans, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. If they carried this CD in Walmart, on average, if they carried it at the Walmart in Rolling Meadows, it would cost a certain amount of money to keep it in the store. And yet, it would only, maybe one person a year in Rolling Meadows would want to buy it. So, keeping it there doesn't pay for itself. But since it's essentially free to keep it on a server and make it downloadable, and because the people visiting your store are the whole country all coming to one store, it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Walmart has to sell at least 100,000 copies of a CD to cover its retail overhead to make profit.
Mm-hmm.
And less than 1% of CDs do that kind of volume. So the article says, what about the 60,000 people who'd like to buy the latest Fountains of Wayne or Crystal Method album? Or for that matter, Kraftwerk's Trans-Europe Express.
Oh,
Sorry,
Joe.
TransUnion is a company here in Chicago.
No, but you know what? Crystal Method and Fountains of Wayne are great examples because they're just outside that 1%.
Right. And this is why the concept of bookstores, they talk about bookstores, the Megaplex movie theaters, radio and network television. They have to appeal to the lowest common denominator to make a profit.
Well, they have to make their product appeal to the greatest percentage of people possible, which is going to be something pretty bland by the nature of what it is.
Exactly.
Well, obviously, there's profit to be made off the 99% of CDs that don't make it into Walmart. And if it's free to have them in stock, then it doesn't matter that one brings less profit than the other. You can carry all of them and get all of the profit. I think Walmart, by the way, is terrible about carrying the narrowest selection possible to make people feel like they have options. Now, I never buy media like books or CDs at Walmart. I have, but on a regular basis I don't. I know that you buy DVDs there sometimes because they're like $5.50. And
that would be right. That would typically be something that I know I want, but it's not. I wouldn't go there looking for example, Ken Burns' wonderful documentary on the history of radio called Empire of the Air, which PBS owns the right to, and I don't think they've released that on DVD. But if they did, I guarantee you that Walmart wouldn't sell it. I would be willing to bet that you wouldn't be able to get it at the Borders.
You wouldn't be able to find it at any store, and yet there are hundreds of thousands of people in the United States who would pay for it.
Yep, and that's the other point of this article. Is they talk about the fact that by having this model, this article is actually very similar, excuse me, to a book that I read a while ago called Blown to Bits, which basically described in the year 2000 what the internet is doing to typical commerce, and the fact that you can do all your research online, whereas, for example, if you were buying a TV, you would have to go to 40 different stores and figure out what the best deal was, and then you're limited by what brands and what models those particular stores sold, and you couldn't do the research. Or a car, nowadays you can go online and you can get you look at the Kelley Blue Book, or you look at whatever, and you can do all sorts of stuff online before you even step into the car dealer. So anyway, that was the idea behind Blown to Bits. The idea behind the article of the long tail, it sort of takes that one step further, which is that you are completely blowing away geography with this model.
Right. eBay is an interesting example, too. If you've ever sold something on eBay that was, something of value, but of value only to those who know to value it, if I can use that convoluted explanation.
That makes sense.
But for instance, I bought an autographed record one time by this band that nobody in the world has ever heard of, except for me. For me, it was a huge find. The same record would have been considered junk at a garage sale or a Goodwill or even an antique store, where you can only get so many people looking at it, and the chances of one of those people looking at it thinking it has value is so low. But out on eBay, it easily fetched $50 because your audience is so wide. I mean, you can sell stuff on eBay. You know this better than I do, but stuff that you could never have turned over in normal channels.
Oh, absolutely.
By taking it to an antique store or trying to sell it locally with a classified ad.
Right. So what was the point in this? The point in this is that if you're a record company, we are
fans of peer-to-peer.
Right. And if the point is that if you're listening to this and you're a record company and you have stuff in your library, don't wait to put it on vinyl or press it onto a silver disc. Just put it out there somewhere. We don't care. Go to iTunes, go to Rhapsody, go to Napster, go to whoever.
Oh, absolutely.
And just put it out there, because it's storage. I'm an IT guy. Storage is next to nothing. Costs next to nothing. If you sell the songs for $1 a piece, and there are songs I used to have in my MP3 collection that I would now pay $3 or $4 for one don't say
song.
That. They might be listening.
Well, this not just any old song, but I mean, you're talking about some live REM cover of some Beatles tune or something.
Really?
They never covered the Beatles that I'm aware of.
REM doing You're Gonna Lose That Girl?
There was a great REM cover where Michael was playing guitar and they sang I Will Survive.
That's a shocker.
Oh, stop. A very, mournful version of I Will Survive.
Really? Stipe sounding mournful?
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
I hassle Lisa, but REM's okay.
REM is...
That was the first concert you saw in Chicago, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
At the Auditorium
Theater
last year.
And they're great in concert, aren't they?
They are, although we were way, way up in the nosebleeds. And I thought Stipe had a little mask on, like a Zorro mask. But it turns out he had a blue stripe across his face. Even Art, the guy who cuts my hair, said, oh, yeah, he does that thing all the time. He puts a big blue stripe across his face.
Oh, that's a big surprise that Art knows.
Well,
about
Art.
As big a surprise as Michael singing I Will Survive.
There you go.
If you know what I mean. So, I had forgotten all about this, Joe, but one of my favorite things about November, about the fall, is Beaujolais Noveau. And I got an email today from our wine guy, Mitch, saying that he had it in. And sure enough, when I got back, Joe had bought 3 bottles of it. Beaujolais Noveau is...
4, actually.
4, actually. Is it's when the harvest of grapes... I'm not sure how to explain Beaujolais Noveau, but it's the first batch. It's the young wine right off of this summer's grapes, right?
Right, correct.
They press it and bottle it and turn it right around. And normally you want wine to age But this is sort of and in that way, it's very Thanksgiving appropriate because it's all about celebrating the harvest.
Exactly.
With this very grapey wine. I mean, it just tastes so fresh. It really tastes very springy, and it's a taste like no other. It just tastes amazingly like grapes right off the vine.
And it's delicious. The brand that
they always come in pretty colorful bottles.
Yes, they do. The brand that everyone always says to look for is Georges DuBoeuf. According to Mitch, in recent years, the Georges DuBoeuf was not. He actually recommended a few that were better. Mm-hmm. Last year, he recommended the Mommessin, which is yet another one, and had a funky 70s kind of label. In fact, the label and the artwork they used was so cool that Lisa asked for the poster when Mitch was done selling it out. So she now has the poster hanging in her kitchen for the Mommessin. And
I'm actually going to see if I can pull the same scam this year.
Yeah. Now, I was over there today. He had just gotten it, and he hadn't even put the posters up yet, but he had the big display in the middle.
And how long does Beaujolais season go?
They stop selling. They usually run out somewhere around New Year's. That's when they're usually out of it.
Right.
I remember it was then. Mitch didn't want to get rid of the poster until he had sold out of the wine.
Right, that's what I remember
that was too. It was after. Or wait, was it? Didn't you have it on New Year's Eve? The poster.
Possibly.
You might have
I don't
had.
remember.
So it was somewhere around Christmas is when it all runs out. But Thanksgiving is typically when you do it. So I bought a few. I bought a few bottles, and we'll be enjoying those with Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday.
Oh, I can't wait.
That's right.
I was wondering if it would go. Actually, it's a red, but I think it'll go wonderfully with Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Anything else we want to cover before we do the cheap date? Thank you to those of you who did leave the comments on the weblog.
Ross. Hi. Thanks for listening.
Our buddy Ross in Melbourne, Australia.
He's either going to be thrilled or totally creeped out by that.
Oh God, look at that. Now they're actually...
No. You're our first bona fide listener. Okay, we have like Joe's parents listening, and our friends Liz and Bob listening.
Who have been mentioned in every podcast, so let's not...
Thus far.
So let's not break that by saying, hey, Liz and Bob, shout out.
We might interview them about the changes at TNT.
That's true.
And about good rum. They're sort of...
And about good rum.
Anyway, you're our first listener that we didn't already know before. So
thanks.
Thanks for commenting, and glad you're listeing.
Let us know, how things are down in
So comment,
Oz.
and we'll say your name on our weblog or on our podcast.
And if we get enough comments, we might, I don't know.
Start a fan club?
We should, or we should start sending out prizes or something like that.
Prizes.
The first person to post a comment for this podcast, someone that we don't know in real life, the first person who posts a podcast, we will send you... We'll send you my PayPal address. You can no. We'll send you the cork from the bottle of. Well, you know what? We should come up with some sort of. No, seriously, we should come up with some sort of prize, and especially if it's someone who's not in the Chicago area, or if it's someone who's like outside the country, we could send something uniquely Chicago to them.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
And so again, so thanks to Ross for the comments and. Yeah, Australia. It's a great place. I've seen some great movies that came from Australia.
Crocodile Dundee.
Right now, Ross is hitting the shut-off button so that... what was it? Oh, Muriel's Wedding, the movie that introduced us to Toni Collette, who was also the mom in I See Dead People.
Olivia Newton-John is from Australia, right?
And Olivia Newton-John.
I'm sorry.
And Steve Irwin.
Oh, now we're just being mean.
And there was this great show. When I had the Game Show Network, when I had digital cable before it became too expensive, can I go on a rant about how Comcast digital cable is too expensive?
Yep, go right ahead.
I'm done. They used to have a show called Who Dares Wins.
With the cute chick.
With Tania Zaetta, the lovely Tanya. Now, Tanya was...
Oh,
Tanya
you know what?
Okay.
That look is reserved for chicks who are more than just cute.
Oh, for you, honey. Only for you.
Oh, you know what?
Well, this was before I knew you. This was a few years ago. But
sure, that's understandable.
Tanya, oh my God. The whole point... Okay, Who Dares Wins was sort of like Fear Factor, only it was like it had brains. Like Fear, I can't stand watching Fear Factor because every time we watched it the other night. What was it? It was a guy laying in a big glass like coffin, and he was being covered with mealworms. Mm-hmm. Ooh,
And he said it was really hellish, but I didn't think it looked that bad.
No. And his girlfriend was crying. But anyway, Who Dares Wins. They would do similar things, only what they would do is...
If somebody covered you in mealworms, I would so not cry.
But thanks. What they would do is they would have these stunts where, like, somebody had to go from a building to another building. Well, first of all, what you did was you wrote in to the show and said, I want you to come and get my girlfriend, Lisa, to come and have her do a stunt on your show. And then the camera crew and either Tanya or Mike, the guy who hosted it, would show up at your door, and it was almost like a Publishers Clearinghouse thing where you'd see the people opening the door going, oh my God. And it'd be like, you see Tanya standing there or Mike, who was, rather strapping young man.
Of course. And
then they'd say, oh yeah, and they'd say, your boyfriend Joe said you should be on the show and you need to do this. You want to do it? And she'd be like, you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe. And then what they do is they take you to like downtown, one of the cities in Australia, and then they would have like a wire between two buildings and then like a bosun's chair, and you had to like slide across this wire over like, 20 stories up. From one side to the other. If you did it, you got, X number of hundreds of sun-drenched Australian dollars. If you didn't do it, Tanya had to do it.
Oh.
And then if Tanya either chickened out or couldn't do it, and I don't think I've ever seen Tanya chicken out on it.
That'd be a pretty lame show.
Well, exactly. But she always wound up doing the things. But if she she failed, like if there was something went wrong and she had to be there were always safety things.
Sure, but like if she let go and hit the net,
exactly, then the contestant would win the thing again. So it was a very cool thing. That's my.
But now, how was it different? I mean, because Fear Factor does things like that. Like you have to drive a boat or you have to drive a car off a building or something.
I don't know. You know what it is? There's something about, I don't know what it is, but something about
Fear Factor has a lot of gross out factor.
It just seems, Fear Factor to me seems really mean-spirited. It doesn't seem like it's in fun. It doesn't seem, Who Dares Wins, to me, was like fun. I'd watch this show and
it should be very empowering. It should be like, right, and you can do this. We're going to show you how to do something you never thought you could do.
Right, and maybe that's it. Maybe what it is Who Dares Wins was sort of like, come on, go do it. And Fear Factor was like, yeah, that dude, man, he's gonna hork,
Right.
So maybe that's what it is. Instead of rooting for someone to succeed in the American version, you're rooting to fail. You know what? And I may be totally off because I don't watch that show. I don't typically watch reality shows.
Well, no, and I think, to have people conquer fears like falling and heights and things like that in an environment that's truly safe builds them up. To have them eat eyeballs or something.
Right, cow eyeballs.
I don't think that really does anybody any good.
So there you go.
And I don't think watching it does you any good.
Okay. So, and with that, shall we go on our cheap date?
Let's go on our cheap date. Okay.
Okay, so where are we this week, Lisa?
This week we're at Tamarind on Gulf Road in Arlington Heights.
Yay!
Tamarind is in a little strip center. I don't know. They must do a great lunch business because every time we go there, they're empty.
No, actually, what we should be clear about that. Every time we go in there, there's one other table active.
That's right. There's exactly one other table. And maybe it'll be that somebody's already there when we get there, and about the time they're getting ready to leave, somebody else comes in. There are always, including us, 2 tables, and rarely more.
So what do we like there?
I'm a big fan of pad thai. Mm-hmm. I am on the quest for the perfect pad thai, and I find it everywhere I go. I love pad thai. I like spicy Thai food. I like the noodles, but I definitely want hot when I go out for Thai.
How many stars do you ask for when you go?
On a scale of 5, I'm a 3.
Right.
Which doesn't say much. I mean, 3 is getting up there, I think. I can do 4, but it's a little too, it's a little too much for me. I've known people who are 5s before, and I don't really understand that.
At some point, that's kind of just burning your mouth, and you don't get the taste anymore.
Right, that's how 5 is for me, or even 4, really, a high 4. I'm a big fan of the pad thai and the pad ki mao, drunken noodles, and my latest favorite is Bangkok beef.
And how is that prepared?
It's beef sautéed with spicy sauce. I think there might be a little oyster sauce in it. All about the oyster sauce. And vegetables, peppers, tomatoes, onions, green onions, wide, soft noodles that get just a little bit crispy on the edges.
That sounds very similar to the noodles in pad see ew,
Yes.
which are the big, wide, thick noodles, which, if they're
Yes.
stirred up enough. Now, my favorite there is the tamarind peanut noodles. There's something in that sauce that I really, really like. And
Meth.
crack. when you get it, they plop a plate down in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my plate dropping sound effect.
Should we get a plate and make this up?
It sounds very similar to this. Something like that. That would be if the server just sort of tossed it, said, "Here you go," and then just tossed
No,
it
but the
down there.
service at Tamarind is
Highly attentive, very nice, very good. Clearly attentive because there's typically only one other and there's no explanation as to why they're not more crowded. If this place was in the city, if this place was anywhere near Lincoln Park or North Michigan Avenue, you wouldn't be able to get near the place. There are restaurants that there are restaurants in those areas that people wait hours for. And
even
one day,
if it were in downtown Arlington Heights.
oh yeah. And one day I'll go on my rant about Rosebud and the fact that people rave about Rosebud. I've been to Rosebud restaurants, and they're good, but I don't believe in waiting like hours to go there. Mm-hmm. If Tamarind was in the city, it would be, you'd never get near the place. So anyway, back to this. When you get the plate, what they do is you get a bowl, and the bowl has the chicken, obviously, bean sprouts. The freshest bean sprouts I have ever had in my life.
Joe's a big fan of bean sprouts.
Oh, they're awesome, and they're like, it's like they just harvested them or something. There's
a garden behind the strip
Exactly.
center.
There's a guy who comes out in a little wheelbarrow and a big sun hat and, "Hi, how are you? Here's your bean sprouts." Shredded carrots, Chinese
Bok choy?
There's bok choy in there, but there's also the Chinese cabbage. You know what I'm talking about? Sort of the purpley cabbage kind of thing. That's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Crushed peanuts, noodles, like very thin vermicelli kind of noodles. And it's all served on a huge bed of lettuce. So it's almost like having a salad. But then what you do is you dump it on your plate. And then you get a bowl of this peanut sauce with tamarind in it. And it's just like, it's awesome. It's incredible.
It's sweet and tangy.
It's sweet and tangy and salty. And there's a lot going on in there. My favorite expression, and it's good, and it's all very reasonable. Oh, it's all very reasonably priced. For appetizers, we typically like the crab rangoon and the
Some
spring
of the best
rolls.
crab rangoon.
Very good. Even the kids, we've taken the kids there, and they really like it.
You can take kids out for Thai, believe it or not.
Yes. What you need to do is just be creative about what you're getting.
Right. Sometimes it's a struggle, but if you say, "Hey, can I just get some sweet and sour chicken and plain rice?"
Or the chicken satay appetizer.
That's right. Last
Which is
time we
what-
went there, Emma had the little chicken, which is basically just grilled chicken on a stick.
With their seasonings.
We
It was
all had
awesome.
Thai food, and she had like KFC.
What else? Oh, they make very good Thai iced teas there. Mm-hmm. And you can always get your Sing Ha. They do have a liquor license, which is good, so you can get a beer if you want. They have really cool. In fact, the next time we go in there, I want to ask them about the CDs because they have really cool Thai pop music playing in there. It was like we heard it was like the Backstreet Boys singing in Thai,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
And for dessert, the banana rangoon.
Yes.
If you're familiar with crab rangoon, it's a crab and cream cheese mixture in a little like dumpling pouch that's deep fried until it's crispy all the way through. The filling, of course, is soft, but the little pouch is all crispy. In the banana rangoon, they take the same pouch and fill it with mashed banana. So and I think they must sweeten the banana because it comes out very sweet.
Right. Well, it's dusted with like powdered
sugar. Yeah. So it's like a little packet of elephant ear crispiness with banana on the inside, and then they put ice cream on it and chocolate syrup, and it's heavenly.
It is, and it's right.
But I've only once or twice had room for it.
And in fact, the very first time we ordered it several months ago, and when it arrived and was put down on the table, Lisa uttered the phrase which has come to identify
all things decadent.
All things decadent. And what she had said was,
"This is unnecessary."
And it was, but it was delicious.
Oh, deep fried banana with ice cream on it?
Highly
say unnecessary.
No. It's hard to say no. So anyway, so that's Tamarind Thai. So we give that our usual fourth time around thumbs up.
Of course.
Tip of the hat.
If anybody's been there at lunch, I'd be interested to hear what it's like at lunch. I think it's slow in the evenings because that whole area is slow in the evenings.
Right.
It's just for whatever reason more a daytime
There are
kind of
homes over
place.
there, but there are a lot of businesses in that area as well.
I don't know where everybody is.
I don't know.
But really, I think if it were the same place downtown, because there are some Thai places downtown that are fabulous, downtown Arlington Heights, business would be crazy.
So there you go. There's our cheap date for the week, Tamarind Thai on Golf Road in Arlington Heights. Head on over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we have a few more minutes. We kind of went long in the first half of this.
I know.
So, but we can... Is there any other topic we wanted to discuss?
Do we have another topic? Thanksgiving is this week.
Yes. We got the turkey on order from the Two Brothers Butcher Shop in downtown Arlington Heights. So I'll be picking that up on Tuesday. I know we can talk about real briefly. We watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles the other day.
Great Thanksgiving movie.
This I think is one of my... I have two all-time favorite holiday movies. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for Thanksgiving because that's my favorite holiday. And Bernard and the Genie for Christmas. Every time I see this movie, I forget exactly how funny it is because I saw this movie when it came out in the theater in 87, 88, or whenever that was.
Wow.
And in the words of Beetlejuice, it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. It is. It's hilarious. And you realize the comic genius that is the combination of Steve Martin and John Candy. The interesting thing was that Steve Martin sort of changed the kind of roles he was playing because he was always sort of the goofy, wild and crazy whatever. And in this movie, he plays the straight man. He plays Neil Page, the straight man.
Well, he's certainly a straight man given to outbursts. But in general, he's the straight man.
Right. So it is a great movie. And there's only a couple of small parts where we had to mute the sound on it.
There is one string of cursing that's...
Right. There's actually only one... Right. There's really only one scene in there that you really need to sort of...
And it's meant to be comical, but it's maybe something you don't want your...
Might be disturbing
little
for
girls to hear.
Children. Exactly. That movie is just great. And also, we have the fact that it has a great soundtrack. I was reminded during the scene where John Candy is driving and they're playing Ray Charles Mess Around, and John Candy is playing the piano on the dashboard, and I was doing pretty much the same thing to Beatles and R.E.M. and XTC and a bunch of other bands while we were driving across country as we were driving through Minnesota in the middle of the night while Lisa was sleeping in
Joe
the front seat of scooter.
I
was having a party. And part of the reason I was having a party was because of the Starbucks double shot that I had ingested.
And the Red Bull.
I don't think I had the Red Bull until the next morning, until we crossed over into Wisconsin.
That could be.
But
I don't know, I slept through the whole thing.
The Starbucks double shot in the can was what kept me going all through Minnesota while Lisa was completely out. And then I woke her up just as we were crossing over the Mississippi in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Where are we? We're in Wisconsin.
And I felt so bad because you drove a double shift. Well, I didn't feel bad.
Clearly not too bad. So Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, my recommendation for this week. And you know what? Don't even bother going to Blockbuster. Don't put it in your Netflix queue and hope that it shows up the next day. You can go to Walmart. I think I paid, $7.50 for it.
Yes, that's why we even got it, because it was in the $7.50 bin at Walmart.
Right. But yeah, so we watched that on Sunday afternoon. It's awesome because it's got romance, it's got swearing, it's got
romance,
it's got transportation.
It's very sweet. It's very funny, and it has a nice little
the whole concept. For those of you who have
heartwarming.
not seen the movie, it starts 2 days before Thanksgiving, and Steve Martin plays an advertising executive who's in New York, and he's trying to get back to Chicago in time for Thanksgiving so he can see his family and his kids. And he runs right in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. He runs into John Candy, and their paths continually cross over and over and over again. It's a great movie, and it's my recommendation for holiday films. Okay, so I think we're done for this one.
That's right. When we convene next time, we will have tales to tell of moving and likely tales to tell of Thanksgiving.
Not our moving, though.
Moving my parents.
Right.
Including the secret recipe for Joe's mom's cranberry sauce.
Oh, yes. This is a big thing. You guys will want to tune in for this.
Uh-huh.
My mom's cranberry sauce, which is actually very similar to your mom's cranberry sauce.
Is actually exactly the same recipe my mom passed down to me.
That's right. So we'll be sharing that next time.
When I came onto my own as a woman.
So we'll pass that on as our post-Thanksgiving wrap. We'll pick up on that.
Oh, we had the kids totally convinced that we were cooking a salmon instead of a turkey for Thanksgiving.
No!
It was
my
favorite thing about kids is telling them wild lies. They believe anything.
No, you aren't. No! Afraid so, honey.
Yeah, salmon.
We're having popcorn. That's what the Indians had. That's what the Indians brought. Popcorn. 3
kernels of corn each.
That's right. Don't you remember? It was hardship back then. Learn something. Okay. So should we say Happy Thanksgiving to everybody? And
Happy Thanksgiving.
And thanks for listening once again.
Good night.
We're wrapping up episode 3 now.
You know what? We're kind of sloppy on the wrap up.
That's okay.
You stay classy, San Diego.
We can The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
I love scotch. Scotch.
I love chair.
Down it goes into my belly.
That was the first movie Lisa and I ever saw together in the theater, which was Anchorman. We could just sit here and just throw quotes from that movie back and forth. See, Ed? Bears. Now you're putting the whole station in jeopardy.
Baxter, is that you? Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. I'm in a glass cage of emotion.
All right, we need to wrap this up because it's getting late at this end. And we need to thank our intrepid listeners for making it all the way through this.
Tell me we're going to edit this out.
No, we'll edit it out. But again, thanks to
you.
I love you too. Thanks to everyone for listening. We hope you had a good time listening to this. It's certainly as much fun as we had bringing it to you.
And in fact, if you have ideas for our comment sweepstakes, comment and let us know.
Oh, by all means, because I think that this is something that I think we could turn into something a whole lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So thanks for listening. The theme song that we've used tonight is from a guy from Los Angeles by the name of John Hoskinson. The song is called I Belong to You. You can download it from the PodSafe Music Network at music.podshow.com. So you'll be hearing that on the way out. So this is Joe.
This is Lisa.
Thanks for listening.
Good night.
I'm not the type to gush or swoon, but lately I've changed my tune. This sloppy grin is plastered to my chin.